I am Tony Hawk. I was born on May 12, 1968, in San Diego, California. I have two parents, Frank Hawk and Nancy Hawk. I have two older sisters, Pat and Lauren Hawk. I have an older brother, Stephen Hawk. When I was 9, Stephen got me a blue figure glass skateboard, and it's called a banana board. When I was 11, I went to a skate park called Oasis in Dogtown. Dogtown allowed me to play in many different X Games. And when I was older, my dad passed away in 1995. That's all.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Groscombe, also I'm known as Betsy. I was born January 1st, 1752, in New Bedford, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. I was born to Samuel Rebecca Groscombe. I was the eighth child of the 16 kids. My family was Quakers, a religion group that believed in living in a peaceful, simple way. Yeah. Our family was so large that the children had to help with chores. So I helped by sewing the white caps that the Quaker girls wear. I attended school by learning to read, write, and geography and history. I used to sew the white girl's cap on chairs, sofas, and I used to win many prizes. I asked my parents if I could work outside, and they agreed. I met a worker named John Ross. We fell in love, but I married him in 1776. John went into the army and died in 1718 in an explosion. That's it.
My name is Jane Goodall from London. I was born on April 3rd, 1934. When I was a child, my father gave me a monkey named Jubilee. I carried him everywhere. One time I was wondering how a chicken laid an egg, so I went into a chicken coop. I was there for hours. Finally, my mother called the cops, and I saw the chicken lay an egg, so I went out. She wasn't mad at me. She understood that I wanted to see a chicken lay an egg. Later in life, I went to Kenya, Africa. A man named Louis Leakey offered a job for looking for bones. Then he told me about chimpanzees living near Lake Tanganyika. I wanted to look for chimpanzees because I've always wanted to study chimpanzees. When I got there, my mother stayed with me for the first 4 months. I was always up before dawn and would often search alone. Guides are way too noisy. I always carried binoculars since the chimps were so far away. In a tin box that contained a sweater, a blanket, some food, coffee, and a mug. Scientists always give chimps numbers. I gave them names because I was different. The first chimp to ever approach me, I named David Graybeard. He was my favorite chimp. I lived with the chimp for 2 years. Then a chimp who didn't like me rose and became the leader of the troop. I was eventually kicked out. Later, I made a program called Take Care. Through that program, it made more than 1 million trees in Africa. Another program of mine was called Chimpanzee. Through that, it helps the lives of chimps in zoos. To this day, I am still alive and I am 80 years old. I still have a house in Tanzania, but I only get to visit twice a year because I spend 300 days a year giving talks to people about my important causes.
I am Leo Messi. I was born on June 24th, 1987 in Argentina in Rosario. At a very young age, I wanted to be a soccer player. When I was 4 years old, my grandma Celia got me a soccer ball. My grandma encouraged me to play for the worst team in Rosario. I played for them, and I scored 5 goals in the first game. After that game, another team called Newell's Old Boys wanted me to play for them, so I played for them because they were really good. I got invited to a soccer tournament in Peru with my team. I like playing with Newell's Old Boys a lot. After that tournament, a guy spotted me and asked me if I wanted to play in Spain, and I said yes. Spain was a big city, so I went there to play. And one day I found out that my grandma Celia died, and I was really sad. But I moved on, so I played in Spain with a team called FC Barcelona. And I am famous for being a professional soccer player.
I am Jackie Robinson from the Brooklyn Dodgers. I was born on January 31st, 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. I'm the youngest of 5 children. My mom moved us to Pasadena, California when I was 6 months old. I went to Cleveland Elementary School, Washington Middle School, John Muir High School, and Pasadena Junior College. In 1939, I enrolled at UCLA. Playing sports helped me not to fall off place. I played football, basketball, baseball, and ran track. I was UCLA's first 4-letter man. After leaving UCLA, I served in the Army until 1944. In 1945, I played in the All-Negro Leagues for the Kansas City Monarchs. In 1947, I played my first Major League Baseball game for the Brooklyn Dodgers. I had the most stolen bases in the National League and was called MVP, Most Valuable Player. One of the things I am famous of is being the first black Major League Baseball player. I retired baseball in January 1957. October 24th, 1972, I suffered a heart attack and died at the age of 53.
I am Abraham Lincoln from Hodgeville, Kentucky. I was born on February 12, 1809 in Hodgeville, Kentucky. When I was a child, I lived alone for 6 months with my sister because our dad was looking for us a new mother. As I got older, when I did not go to school because school was 9 miles away. As I got older, I went to school only a mile away, and when I was 10, I started working. At the age of 22, I moved to New Zealand, Illinois. I am famous for helping the slavery end and was one of the 4 presidents to be assassinated and was the 16th president of the United States of America. I admire that I played a key role in the passing 13th Amendment, which ended slavery in America. Another thing that made me famous was the Gettysburg Address speech and abolishing slavery.
Hi, I'm Harry Houdini. I was born on March 24th, 1874 in Budapest, Hungary. My real name is Eric Wise. It wasn't until I needed a stage name that I became known as Harry Houdini. As a child, I moved with my family from Hungary to the United States. We lived in Wisconsin before settling in New York in 1887. When I was 12, I ran away from home. My plan was to go to Galveston, Texas if I got on the wrong freight car and landed in Kansas City, Missouri. I worked odd jobs for the next 2 years and sent home money to my mother from time to time. When I was 12, I sent home money to my mother from time to time. I didn't go to school very often because my family moved so much. I did learn to read and write, but I was a poor speller. This was a lifelong problem for me. Later as I grew up, I became fascinated with magic. The first trick I mastered was a vanishing and reappearing coin. My brother Theo and I became known as the Brothers Houdini and performed a trick that was the first of my trademark illusions. It was called metamorphosis. I would tie Theo's hands behind his back and put him in a sack. Then he was locked inside of a trunk. I would step behind the curtain so no one could see me or the trunk. When the curtains were pulled back, Theo would be standing there and I was inside the locked trunk. This was part of my acts for the rest of my career. As an adult, I became known as the Handcuff King. I could escape any pair of handcuffs.
On March 17, 1904, I escaped the handcuff challenge offered by a London newspaper. It took an hour and 10 minutes, but it was one of my greatest triumphs. Sadly, on October 31st, 1926, I died at the age of 52. It was an unfortunate accident. I let a young man punch me in the stomach 3 times, and I didn't know it at the time, but my appendix had ruptured. I am famous for being an escape artist, a great magician, and also, on March 18th, 1910, I was the first person to successfully fly an airplane over Australia. I live my life taking risks, conquering my fears, and having fun doing it. Hi, I'm Neil Armstrong. I was born in Wapakoneta, Ohio on August 5th, 1930. As a child, I enjoyed going to the airport to watch a plane take off and land. At 6 years old, I went for my first airplane ride. It was with a pilot who was offering rides to local residents. In school, I was a fantastic reader. In the 2nd grade, I was reading at a 5th grade level. My tutor thought I was too advanced, and I was moved up to 3rd grade. In high school, I joined the band playing the baritone horn. My best subjects were math and science. Because I skipped a grade in elementary school, I graduated in 1947 when I was only 16. Later, as I grew up, I attended Purdue University, but after 3 semesters, the Navy called me to active duty. I was sent to flight school at Pensacola, Florida. During the Korean War, I flew a total of 78 combat missions and earned 3 medals. In 1952, I received an honorable discharge from the Navy. That fall, I returned to Purdue University. I joined the American Rock Society and was president of the Aero Club. I graduated from Purdue in January 1955. As an adult, I worked for NASA at Edwards Air Force Base as a civilian high-speed test pilot. On March 16, 1966, I was commander of the Gemini 8, my first space flight. On July 20, 1969, during the Apollo 11 mission, I was the first man to walk on the moon. My fellow astronaut, Buzz Aldrin, and I planted the American flag on the moon's surface. Upon our return, we were quarantined for 3 weeks. I spent my 39th birthday in isolation. On August 13, 1969, President Nixon awarded us the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award. After a long, successful career, sadly, I died on August 25th, 2012 at the age of 82 due to complications from surgery. I am famous for being the first man to walk on the moon, for the words I spoke as I stepped on the moon's surface. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I'm Abraham Lincoln. I was born in Nowling Peak, Kentucky on February 12, 1809. I lived in a log cabin with my mom, my dad, and my sister. I didn't have a lot of schools. My mom taught me how to read and write. I love reading books. The book I read the most was the Bible. As a young man, I worked as a shopkeeper, surveyor, and postmaster. I also drive food for a living. I was called the rail splitter. As an adult, I studied the law and became a lawyer and a politician. I was very honest, so I was nicknamed Honest Abe. I ran for office several times but was defeated. But that didn't stop me. In 1860, I became the 16th President of the United States. When I was president, I led the Civil War. The Civil War happened when the Yankees from the north fought the rebels from the south. This war was important because if we didn't fight, all the states would be separated. On January 1st, 1863, I issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which ordered to free the slaves. Later that year, I gave the Gettysburg Address. This speech was about how important it was to have human freedom. I was president again in 1864. Sadly, on April 14, 1865, I was shot by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater. I was the first president ever to be assassinated. Today, people can find me at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., but you can also find me in your pocket on a copper penny.
I am Barack Obama from Hawaii. I was born on August 4th, 1961 in Honolulu, Hawaii. When I was a child, I moved to Indonesia with my mom and her new husband. In school, I felt very out of place. I did not know where I belonged and I spoke a different language. Later as I grew up, I still had no idea of where I belonged. Then I just knew where I belonged all these years. As an adult, I moved people with the power of my words and I helped the poor. I am famous for having a seat in the Illinois State Senate and becoming President of the United States. And I am still a living person today. As Barack, I go from place to place, speech to speech. I also live in the White House in Washington, D.C. As a child, I did not live with my parents, but I lived with my grandparents.
As back in my early life, when I was 11 years old, I traveled to Kenya to visit my father. While serving in the state senate, I co-authorized the state earned income tax credit that helped the poor.
I am Franklin B. Roosevelt from Hyde Park, New York. I was born on January 30th, 1882. When I was a child, I learned to speak French, German, and learned to ride, shoot, row, and play polo. In school, I was influenced by the school headmaster, Endicott Peabody, who preached the duty of Christians to help the less fortunate. Later, as I grew up, I got sick by polio and couldn't do the things I love. As an adult, I became President of the United States for 4 terms. I'm famous for leading the USA through the Great Depression and World War II, and greatly expanded the federal government through a series of programs and returns known as New Deal.
I am Henry Ford. I was born July 30th, 1863 in Dearborn, Michigan. I lived on a farm with my sisters and brothers. I was the oldest child. I never liked farming. I liked experimenting with gadgets. I'm Mary Claire O'Brien. We had one son named Tetzel, named after my best friend. I built my first gasoline engine in my kitchen. Then I built a quadricycle. It was my first automobile with 4 bicycle wheels, 1 seat, and no brakes. I built the Ford Motor Company. Then I built the Model T. It was also known as the Tin Lizard. Everybody liked the car. I began paying $5 a day for my workers. My company used the assembly line to build cars. A piece of a car goes past the line of workers. That made it easier and less expensive to build a car. In 1914, one Model T was made every 93 minutes. As I'd like to say, everything can always be done better than is being done.
I am Mayday, a space pioneer. I was born in Detroit, Alabama. Before I was a space pioneer, I was a doctor. It was pretty hard being a doctor because you have to do a lot of things. You have to get medical things ready for when people hurt themselves. I trained kids in Africa. It was pretty hard, but I got used to it. They have no clean water in Africa, no clean clothes. But I thought it was pretty easy because I help kids in Africa. I helped them do math. I helped them learn a new language because some of them speak Spanish. But it was okay. I made cards for them and put English, something that's in English, and I told them to study them every day before they go to bed. I help kids because ever since I was little, I used to say, "Mommy, could you please get me a box and can I please carve it and use it as a rocket?" My mom said yes. So she got me clothes. She got the sew, she got the needle, and she got the color I wanted it. She started sewing it, and I put it on, and then I pretended like I was going to the moon. It was pretty fun at times. And then when my dad said, when my mom's not home, I could go get ice cream, because my mom didn't let me get ice cream on school nights. It was her rule, because she thought I went a little crazy on school nights with ice cream. So after I eat my ice cream, I practice what I want to be when I grow up. My mom asked me, "What'd you eat for dinner last night?" I say spaghetti, because that's my favorite. And then my mom says, "Go get your cards, start practicing," and I do. She always asks me every morning, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be a doctor. Then I want to be a space pioneer." I was the first woman to become a space pioneer. It was pretty fun, but not all the time. It was pretty easy, but sometimes it's not. And it's pretty hard building rockets. And you always have to go to the moon or a new planet like Saturn, Venus, or Mars. It's hard, but I took it pretty easy.
Hello, I am Betsy Russ. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1752. I had 17 brothers and sisters. Two of them died, and 8 of them survived childhood. The two brothers and sisters that died were William, who died at 1 year old, and Sarah, who died at 7. When I finished my learning at a Quick Run public school. Then I met a man named John Russ, who later we got married. After we got married, the war broke out when only 2 Rosses had been married for 2 years. When we'd been married for 2 years, John was assassinated. Then George Washington asked me to make the first American flag. Then, when I was done, I showed it to George Washington. He loved it. He used it for the army when we were fighting England. Then I wanted to do more for America than just sew a flag. I wanted to give food and water and help with the army. So I gave food and water to the soldiers and took care of them when they were hurt or shot. When I got to 84, I died. Then, 11 months later, my sister died as well.
Hi, I am Tom Brady, born August 3rd, 1977. You will probably know me from the New England Patriots. I'm the quarterback. I've gone to 6 Super Bowls. I've won 4 and only lost 2. That's pretty good, if you ask me. My wife is Giselle Bunchett. I have 3 kids, John, Benny, and Vivian, our new little girl. She's so cute. Malcolm Butler just won our 4th Super Bowl. I am number 12, as you can see on my jersey here. When I was younger, I played for the Michigan Wolverines. When I also was younger, I was very competitive. For example, if I lost to tennis, I would take my tennis racket and smash it. Or I would take my golf clubs, just because I was so mad if I lost. I was drafted in the 6th round of the 2000 NFL draft. And I nearly missed all of 2008 for my 13 full seasons because I had a torn ACL. I have won 3 MVPs, 2007, 2010, and 2015.
I am John F. Kennedy. I was born on May 29, 1970 in Brooklyn, Massachusetts. A child, I went to Dexter School for Wealthy Kids, and I had severe scarlet fever and I almost died. As I grew up, I say people's I don't know called PT-109 and as a adult became the 35th President of the United States. I was present during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I was the founder of the Peace Corps. Also, I married Jacqueline Kennedy, and together we had 4 kids, and one of them died. Then I was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, while I was riding a convertible limousine. My assassinator was Lee Harvey Oswald, but after he was put in jail, he was shot and killed by Jack Ruby. My wife arranged for my grave to be marked by an eternal flame, one that never goes out. She was the one who lit the flame on my grave. At my funeral, my son, John Jr., saluted to me. He was 3 years old. From then on, I was known as a great part of history.
Hi, I'm Emmett Smith from Pensacola, Florida. I was born on 1969 in Pensacola, Florida. When I was a child, I followed 4 rules. They were 1, respect others, 2, put effort into your job, 3, go to school, learn, and 4, don't play in class. In school, I was a sprinter on the track and field team. Later, as I grew up, I attended the University of Florida. My coach, he said I wasn't fast enough, but our first game, I scored the first touchdown. As an adult, I got drafted into the NFL by the Dallas Cowboys. I'm famous for being the NFL's rushing leader and also being in the NFL's Hall of Fame.
I am Rosa Parks. I am from Montgomery, Alabama, born on February 4th, 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913. 1913.
In Montgomery, I had to go to Warfield and I had a colored sign. There was a colored school and a white school. I attended the school for colored children. As an adult, I had to sit in the colored section on the bus. I lived through segregation. One day, I had enough and sat in a seat meant for white people. The white bus driver said, "Get up." I said no. I am famous for helping the fight for civil rights. I decided to join the Montgomery boycott. Martin Luther King Jr. led the boycott. When I got married, I started to think on why they were doing this. Then I got mad and followed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The blacks protested for their rights. The whites were treated better than the blacks. I thought that was wrong, so I protested too. I'm I was born on February 7th, 1867 in Pepin County, Wisconsin, U.S. When I was a child, I would explore shady willow trees and play on the Gravely Beach. In school, I mainly taught myself, and I became the leader of the girls. As I grew up, I wanted to teach school. When I was 16, I accepted my first teaching position. As an adult, I owned a farm. I was encouraged by my daughter to write books. I'm famous for writing Little House on the Prairie books and Little House series. My first few years of marriage were difficult. I later departed from Rocky Ridge Farm. I later would sign books. I was later in my life a pioneer woman. I got married to Alan Manzo. Alan Manzo and I were alone at Rocky Ridge Farm. My husband's death was at the farm in 1949 at the age 92. I died on February 10th, 1957 at the age 90.
My name is Betsy Ross. I was born in 1752 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My maiden name is Elizabeth Griscombe. I am the great-granddaughter of a carpenter who came from England in 1680. I attended Quaker schools and learned sewing and other crafts. I became an upholstery apprentice. At age 17, I met my first husband, John Ross. I was a Quaker and John was an Anglican. We shocked our families when we got married. We started an upholstery company. 4 years later, John was killed in war. I was able to keep his property and our business. I worked day and night making flags for Pennsylvania. A year later, I got married to a sailor named Joseph Ashburn. A few years later, the British captured his ship and he died in prison. Later on, I married John Claypool. We were married 34 years before he died. I died on January 30th, 1836 at the age of 84. 50 years after my death, my grandson told the story of how I sewed the first American flag in June of 1776 after a visit from George Washington. Today, the Betsy Ross House is one of the most visited tourist sites in Philadelphia. My story is woven into the fabric of American history.
I'm Helen Keller from Discombia, Alabama. I was born in 1880 in Discombia, Alabama. When I was a child, I was looking at the sun. Something was wrong. The doctor found out that I had a sickness. I was blind and deaf. A teacher came to help me do things because I did not know how to do things. Sometime later as I grew up, I got better and better at learning sign language from my teacher, Amy Sullivan. As an adult, I visit the armies to make sure they are okay. Sometimes I made speeches. I'm famous for learning Braille fast, making Braille books for blind people, learning sign language, and learning how to speak by myself. Although, kids did not want to play with me because I was blind and I did not know where I was going, so I bumped into things like trees, kids, pots, and other things that I don't remember because it was a long time ago, and now I'm a grown lady. That's why kids did not want to play with me. That's how I lived my life, becoming to be a normal girl.
I am Alaria Sase from Pakistan. I was born on July 12, 1997 in Mingora, Pakistan. When I was a child, I played with my friends and cousins. We liked to play Papatini, a game of hide and seek. I attended my father's school, the Kusha School. I tried my best to get the best grades. I thought all girls should go to school.
Later, as I grew up, the Taliban started to take over Pakistan, and life became hard. I gave a speech called, "How Dare the Taliban Take My Basic Rights to Education?" I also wrote a blog about how my life was in Pakistan and how it was for girls. As a teenager, I also gave a speech about how much I loved my school. My father and I received threats from the Taliban. I never thought they would attack a child, but I knew that they were going to kill me. One day, when I was riding the bus home from school, the Taliban stopped our bus. One of the men asked, "Who is Malala?" When my friend looked at me, they knew it was me, so they shot me ahead. I survived. I'm famous for being an advocate for girls' education rights. On October 2014, I was the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize.
I am Jackie Robinson. I was born on January 31st, 1919. I was the youngest in all of my siblings, named Edar, Frank, Matthew, nicknamed Mac and Willamay. My father left the family in 1920 when I was 1 year old. We moved to Pasadena, California. I lived in Pepper Street. My mother worked odd jobs to support the family. I was growing in poor property, otherwise well-off community. And my African American friends were excluded from many opportunities. As a result, I was joined into a gang. But my friend Carl Anderson persuaded me to abandon it in 1935. I graduated from Washington Junior High School and enrolled at John Murray High School. Recognizing my athletic talents, my older brother Mac, himself accomplished athlete and silver medalist at the 1936 Summer Olympics. Frank, my brother, inspired me to push his interest in sports. Murray Tech, I played several sports at the Verdesty level and lettered in fourth of the football, basketball, track, and baseball. I played shortstop and catcher on baseball team, quarterback on the football team, and guard on baseball team. With and field squad, I won awards in the board jump. I was also a member of the tennis team. In 1936, I won the junior boys single championship in the annual Pacific Coast Negro Tennis. Later in my life, I got married on February 10th, 1946, to a woman named Rachel. I had 3 kids: Sharon, David, Jackie Jr. I was famous for breaking the color line. And being all good at all sports.
I am Tony Hawk. I am from Cardiff. I was born on May 12, 1963 in Carlsbad, California. When I was a child, I really wanted to learn how to skate. At school, I spent time with my head down, doing my work and counting the seconds till the last bell. Later, as I grew up, I became a professional skateboarder. As an adult, I competed in the X Games. I won a lot of contests. I am famous for skateboarding contests with other famous skateboarders. I am also famous for making the first skateboard film with my friends. I admire my perfect skateboarding and how I didn't give up even when I got hurt. I got hurt by smacking my face at a corner of a concrete bowl. and when I fell to the bottom of the bowl, my mouth was filled up with blood and I cracked both my front teeth. I walked to the control room really wobbly. So they called the ambulance. I spent time in the dentist for a long time. When I decided to go home, I still wanted to learn how to skate. So my older brother taught me more on how to ride a skateboard. When I was done, I could land a 360 and grind an ollie. My dad found me a skateboarding school to go to. I did not know that I was joining Stacy and other famous skateboarders. Stacy was a really famous skateboarder. So at skater school, I spent every second I had trying to land a 900. When I graduated, I could land a 900.
I am Pocahontas. My father, King Powhatan, was a federation of an Algonquin Indian tribes. We lived in the Tidewater region of Virginia. I was once captured by a man named Captain Argall. Captain Argall was a man who believed in peace between the Indian men and the Englishmen. So he took the Indian men into handing me over. I stayed in Jamestown for 1 to 3 years. I saved John Smith's life. And I have many descendants alive today.
I am Peyton Manning. I was born on March 24th, 1976 in New Orleans, Louisiana. When I was a child, I learned to play football with my dad, Archie Manning. In school, I was determined to do well at everything from kindergarten through high school. Later, as I grew up, I went to the University of Tennessee. I am the Tennessee Volunteers. As an adult, I played professional football for the Indianapolis Colts and Denver Broncos. I'm famous for being a great quarterback that makes good decisions. Also, I help people in need with foundations I have started. I played 3 years as a starter and led the Newman to a 34-5 record and thrown 7,207 yards and 92 touchdowns. During my senior year, I racked up 39 touchdowns. I am also famous because I am smart, athletic, and skilled on the field. I think 100 plays at the same time. At age 13, I said, I am committed. My life is a Christian. Every night I pray before a game. During the summers, my dad, Cooper, Eli, and I run the Manning Passing Academy. On St. Patrick's Day 2001, I married my wife, Ashley. I started my NFL career with the Indianapolis Colts in 1998 and was released on March 7, 2011. In 2012, I signed a contract to play with the Denver Broncos to play 5 years with the Denver Broncos worth $96 million. On October 19th, 2014, I broke Brett Favre's record for the most career touchdowns when I threw my 509th touchdown pass against the 49ers.